Part 32. The Ultimate Lich King. Author, Xiezhongdai Shang. Chapter 311. The location is an abandoned factory in the city. All members of the Gremory family are here to visit. As the ruler of a city, Rias will naturally not always rely on others for help. Most of the time, the strong girl will always deal with intruders. It was a man who led his family members to fight for destruction. Yeah, you also knew the girl's arrogance and chose not to take action. After all, if he took action, there would be no suspense. But this time it involved the disaster group, so naturally he couldn't turn a blind eye. As the sun sets, the sky gradually darkens. There are several auras in the dim factory, full of murderous intent and hostility at the same time. Are you a member of Gremory? You have such a sharp nose. A man in a black coat emerges from the darkness. In the darkness around the man, several human-like black aliens were about to move. The number was no less than 2 digits. There were probably 100 black humanoid monsters in this narrow factory. Rias took a step forward and asked in a cold voice. It's the group of disaster, the hero faction, right? Gin, I am Rias Gremory. I am a superior demon appointed by the 3 major forces to manage the city. Hearing the minister's greeting, the man raised his lips. Ah, I already understand this, the Demon King's sister. Because our purpose is to purify you demons and save the city. The man looked at Rias and others like they were looking at trash. Although the disaster group has been silent for a long time, it seems that their purpose remains unchanged. Recently, a small group of people from the hero faction have been launching attacks on the city. It should be said that important strongholds of various forces have been attacked by members of the hero faction. It's obvious that these people are testing or something else. Otherwise, attacking a city with a fallen angel governor, a seraph, and a demon king is an act of seeking death. However, the successive attacks allowed Rias to conduct many practical exercises. 2 more shadows appeared from beside the man. This time they were not aliens but humans. They are men wearing sunglasses and Chinese national costumes. Looking back at the aliens, to put it bluntly, they are combatants who look like cannon fodder. The hero faction seems to be using them as troops. But even if they are cannon fodder, their individual strength is so strong that even lower-level demons cannot cope with it. Does this have such strength? It's not even cannon fodder. He originally planned to exercise his almost rusty body, but after seeing the strength of his opponent, Yayu curled his lips in disappointment. Although he doesn't like it, it's still good to give it to Rias and the others to train. You are the so-called strongest soldier, right? You are very famous in our place. Don't worry, the adults will definitely come and deal with you personally. Our mission is just to kill a random guy. As if he didn't care about Yayu, the man showed a bloodthirsty smile at Rias and others. No matter how hard you fight, being able to kill one of these people is a great achievement. Go ahead. After saying that, the man in the black coat emitted something like white flames from his hands. Following the man's first attack, hundreds of monsters of the opposite sex around him also rushed towards the side. As for the 2 old-fashioned men who appeared, they disappeared into those monsters. Is he the owner of the artifact again? Rias looked at the angry man opposite and frowned without saying anything. Ah, the heroes who are looking for trouble seem to be the owners of artifacts. It seems that the disaster group has collected a lot of such people. Although she was a little confused, Akeno still looked excited and smiling, and it was perfect for her to be able to torture people again. It's really nerve-wracking. During this period, I have been fighting against the owner of the artifact. She sighed helplessly. Rias's hands were not slow, and she released the bloody spiritual power and began to prepare the powerful magic bullet of destruction. Allah Allah, isn't destruction the best? I quite like it. Akeno held her slightly red cheeks, and the dazzling lightning condensed in her palms. The battle was very easy. Although the opponent's artifact possessed a powerful weapon against demons, the gap in strength still caused them to be wiped out quickly. The two former Holy Sword users and the Forbidden Hand Kibayuto's output is very terrifying. The two Cat sisters, who mastered Senjutsu with their sister Kurika, and Akeno Himejima, carried out long-distance fire strikes, so that the battle ended without even Rias taking any action. Although the battle ended with a complete victory, one fish escaped through the teleportation array, and Yayu, who could have easily stopped him, did not stop him. However, he finally understood the meaning of the seemingly death-defying actions of the hero faction, which allowed combat members with artifacts to restrain their hands between life and death. After listening to Yayu's analysis, Rias and others frowned slightly. What a cruel tactic! What are the people of the hero faction thinking about using such a counterproductive method to enhance the strength of their members? Perhaps, we are preparing for the war in the near future. Reaching the forbidden level is only the lowest level. If it is too low, it may not even be considered as a combat power. A big war. Yayu's words made Rias think of something bad. After all, the disaster group was a thorn in everyone's heart. No one knew what this terrible organization could do. No matter what, I have to tell my brother this news as soon as possible. Not only my brother, but also the angels and fallen angels. After cleaning up the battlefield and hiding all traces, Yayu, Rias and others returned to Kuah Academy. Gabriel and Azazel were in the academy. Rias first briefly explained Yayu's guess to them, and then went to inform her brother without stopping. Sure enough, after receiving this important news, all three parties attached great importance to it. After discussing it for a while, Azazel, Sertsks, and Michael also came to the same conclusion as Yayu. The disaster group is cultivating cutting-edge combat power, and it does so at the expense of a lot of blood and sacrifice. Every artifact is a valuable asset, and the current actions of the disaster group are undoubtedly preparing for a desperate fight. Whether it was Azazel, Sertsks or Michael, they all felt a sense of crisis that was about to come. They also began to prepare for war among the three tribes, and warned against disasters that might happen at any time. The heroes of the group attacked. The Ultimate Lich King. Author, Xiezhongdai Shang. Chapter 312. A few days passed after dealing with the attack by the disaster group. On this day, Yayu and Akeno came to the street to buy props for the upcoming school festival. Rias enthusiastically wrote a play herself, and Yayu's was also roped in to play the leading role in it. But it was the first time that I went shopping with Akeno like this. As Yayu thought about this, his eyes fell on Akeno involuntarily. Different from the long single ponytail that she wears on campus, Akeno's hair is let down, and she is wearing cute clothes like a young girl. This is the first time she has seen her wearing long boots, but I have to say that it makes Akeno's whole body look different. He became taller and his temperament became more charming. Akeno has always given people the appearance of a mature big sister, with very dignified manners and clothes. I have to say that today Akeno looks much more delicate and cuter than usual in the cute clothes of a high school girl. Akeno herself seemed to enjoy this shopping trip very much. The girl always behaved like a young girl. In the brand clothing store, she acted like an ordinary girl. Hey, Yayu, does this look good on me? This one is better, I kept asking which dress was the most beautiful. In other words, the tone is completely soft and ordinary girl's tone, all the catchphrases that would make people think of bad things are gone. We were obviously preparing something for the school festival, but unknowingly it seemed to have turned into something like a date. Ah, it's time to go back, otherwise Rias and the others will probably look for me, right? Akeno said with a smile after walking out of the aquarium and looking at the sun that had risen to the top. Although it wasn't a perfect date, it was still a good time. Then Yayu, let's go back together first, Akeno said, holding Yayu's hand, but just when she took a few steps, she stopped stiffly. I didn't expect to meet him in this place. What a coincidence, a male voice sounded with a wry smile. Obviously I came out to have a good time. Why did I meet this annoying brat in a place like this? It doesn't feel like a coincidence at all. Thinking of the noisy voice, Yayu raised his eyebrows. It seemed that it was that bastard. The voice of the Norse main god. Naturally, he took a step forward and protected Akeno behind him. Yayu looked at the four people who appeared in front of him. An old man, the Nordic god Odin, wearing a hat and dressed casually, and beside him was his old acquaintance Azazel. Behind them were a sturdy man and a serious-looking woman in a suit. Even with Yayu's picky eyes, that woman was considered a rare beauty. Her slender silver hair made people feel loose and elegant as soon as they saw it. But it looks familiar, like that virgin Valkyrie from that day. Didn't this guy go back to Northern Europe? Why is he back again? Yayu asked Azazel with some confusion, and the latter showed a helpless smile. Ah, well, because the disaster group has recently taken action again, Mr. Odin came to us again to discuss countermeasures. As a guide, I led him to understand a little bit about Japan's characteristics and scenery. Azazel said this with some reluctance, while Yayu showed a somewhat skeptical look. Although the rhetoric was perfect, Yayu always felt that things were not that simple. That's not true. Lord Odin, as the main god of Northern Europe, please pay attention to your words and deeds. Going in and out of such occasions is really too much. A silver-haired beauty in a suit stepped forward, seemingly a little worried. He glanced at Yayu shyly, and then seriously taught Odin a lesson. What's wrong, Rossius? You are also a Valkyrie who welcomes heroes. You need to see more of this kind of scene to gain experience. Anyway, I'm just a beautyless Valkyrie, an old maid whose time without a boyfriend is equal to her age. For some reason, Rossius suddenly became decadent. Looking to the side, a man who looked like the root of Azazel was approaching Akeno. As the man approached, Akeno's body began to tremble. Akeno, we finally have the chance to meet. Can you have a good talk with me? Sorry, I don't have that time. With trembling shoulders, she turned around and rejected the request of the man in front of her. Akeno had a very painful look on her face. Give me a moment, I really want to tell you something. Although the man's words seemed a little bitter, he was not angry, and he just asked more quietly. He stretched out his hand to grab Akeno's arm, but was stopped by Yayu. Who are you? Looking at Yayu, who was hiding Akeno behind him, the man spoke so rudely. Looking at the other person's appearance, Yayu's eyes also turned cold. I should have said this. Who are you and why are you harassing Akeno? Well, let me introduce you. This one is one of my cotters, Baichu. The one here is the unscientific soldier boy from the Gremory family. Azazel stepped forward and nudged Baekyo with his elbow to show him to be polite. Baekyo was different from Odin. The old man who had seen Yayu provoking off eyes was very afraid of him, but Baekyo didn't take it seriously. In his opinion, the so-called strongest soldier is just a boasted name. How powerful can a reincarnated demon be? Not to mention that now his daughter is hidden behind him, how can Baekyo calm down? Baichu. Listening to Azazel's introduction, Yayu also raised his eyebrows slightly. The name Baekyo was naturally familiar to him. Akeno's father was the main culprit for making Akeno what he is today. Rias had long heard that Akeno and her father were not at odds with each other, but now they finally met? Well, that's actually what it's like. Because old man Odin is going to stay with us for a while, I'm temporarily acting as a tour guide. And as the teacher of your supernatural research department, I naturally can't let you go like this. So I called Baekyo over, and asked him to take good care of and train you during my absence. Azazel said this in a very far-fetched way. Yayuz rolled his eyes angrily. He was basically certain that this was definitely Azazel's own initiative. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Ultimate Lich King. Author, Xiezhongdai Shang. Chapter 313. After all, there were so many fallen angel cotters that he couldn't decide who to ask over, so he asked Akeno's father to come over. It seemed like it had been discussed from the beginning. This is not the place to talk. Go back first. Looking at the two people in the confrontation, Akeno was the first to express his attitude. Hearing what his daughter said, Bakio also nodded. He only needed his daughter to forgive him, and naturally he would not disobey anything she said. Kyo Academy, in the Supernatural Research Department. Ha ha ha, in short, that's it. I came to Japan for sightseeing. Odin, who came with Azazel, laughed and said this to Dorias and her family members. In fact, Odin didn't plan to come, but it seemed that Azazel was worried about a fight here, so he came with him. Actually, he was also hated by others in his hometown, so he was kicked out. Yeah, you said so casually on the side, which immediately stopped Odin's laughter. Did you get it right? Seeing the embarrassed look on old Odin's face, Yayu rubbed his chin curiously and thought. Yayu has no feelings for this guy, but Laius and other relatives respect him very much. In any case, he is also the main god of the party. Please. Rias put on a smile and greeted Mr. Odin. No need to make any fuss, Odin replied in a rare serious manner, and did not dare to look around, because he knew that the girls here were more or less related to Yayu. Ah, I'm so envious, having a harem or something. Oops. This is the first time I see Lord Odin acting so serious. Please tell me who you are pretending to be. Valkyrie behind Odin hit Mr. Odin on the head hard. The old man rubbed his head and half opened his eyes. It was obvious that he was used to the situation, but it was true that he was somewhat depressed. Really, I am the main god of Northern Europe. Do you think I would do something so rude as drooling and staring at the breasts of a beautiful girl? Odin said with a serious look. Let me introduce, this is the old follower Valkyrie, his name is. Sign up Rosius, please take care of me during this time in Japan. From now on, we will be friends, Rosius said a little coquettishly, and continued to secretly observe Yayu's face. Naturally, the Valkyrie's little moves couldn't be hidden from Yayu's eyes. Yayu had been wondering why she kept looking at him since she was outside. Valkyrie introduced by Odin, Rosius also said hello. Rias had naturally seen each other before, but it was the first time for others to meet her. She looks like a young and bold girl, but she is very calm, capable. Although it makes people feel that her clothes are cheap street stalls. As if to retaliate for being knocked on the head for no apparent reason, Odin sent the information with a dirty look on his face, causing Rosius to look extremely embarrassed. That doesn't matter, it's just because no boy likes me so far. I collapsed on the spot and started knocking on the floor non-stop, looking like I was broken by playing. Well, the battle otome industry is also very harsh. After all, even people with outstanding looks have not ushered in their spring. Recently, the number of heroes and brave men has decreased a lot due to the reduction of funds. Valkyrie, there is also a trend of shrinking the deployment, and this person is also a member who can only shrink to the workplace before becoming an old follower. Odin nodded and said, although he didn't understand what he was talking about, but he felt very powerful. At this time Azazel spoke. While the old man is in Japan, we will serve as his bodyguards. Bakio is an important person sent by the fallen angels. I am quite busy at this time and my time to stay here is limited. During these days, Bakio will take care of it on my behalf. Please take care of me. Mr. Bakio, who didn't talk much, said politely. Old man, is it a little early to come to Japan? According to what I heard, the schedule should be a little later. Isn't the main purpose of coming to Japan this time to talk to the Japanese gods? Michael and Sertsk will serve as agency, I'll also be present at the meeting, something like that. Azazel took a sip of tea and then asked. Absolutely. Because there are some troubles in our country, it's not so much troubles, but my way of doing things has been criticized. I think it's better to act early before any trouble happens. There are some things I want to discuss with Japan in advance. Let the gods talk. After all, it has been closed up so far and there has been no communication. The old man sighed while stroking his long white beard. Since we said we are here to have fun, don't think about unhappy things. Master, is there anywhere you want to go? Azazel asked the old man, and the old man put on an obscene expression and moved the fingers of his two hands. I want to go to the club. Haha, your vision is really unique, you god. Okay, let's go. My young girls here have opened a VIP shop in this town, so let's go there to entertain you. Oh ho 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 ho. As expected of brother Azazel. You are so knowledgeable. Follow me, old bastard. Let's go, Wano. Have you ever played the Atakan game? If you come, you must give it a try. Let me teach you the heart of Yamato. I can't stand it. I can't stand it at all. The two people went out of the room quickly with stupidity, leaving Yulias and others staring at them with dark expressions on their faces. Is it okay for the industrial governor and the old man to be leaders? Ah, Rias put her hand on her forehead and frowned. Lord Odin, I am going too. Miss Rossius chased after her. Just stay here. If Azazel is here, there will be no problem. You can just wait at home. No. I have to go. If you come here, I'll fire you. I'm worried that I won't have this chance. If I can fire you, I can find someone more obedient. After hearing the words of her master god, the Valkyrie immediately collapsed to the ground, her face full of dissatisfaction and helplessness. Speechlessly shaking their heads and sighing, everyone present had no idea what to say. The Ultimate Lich King. Author, Xiezhongdai Shang. Chapter 314. After the two crooked guys Azazel and Odin left, the room fell into silence again. For a long time, Bakia watched Akeno speak slowly. Can you have a good talk with me now, Akeno? With a hint of request, the girl's body trembled slightly, and she didn't know how to say anything even if she wanted to refuse. I know. Really, really. It's so good. Hearing that his daughter agreed to his request, Bakia's face showed a hint of joy, and he immediately wanted to reach out and grab the girl's arm. Do not touch me. As for Baichu's approach, Akeno shook off the other person's palm angrily and immediately walked towards the room inside. Being treated like this, the middle-aged man nodded happily, and then quickly followed. Yayu. Ria spoke with some worry, while Yayu smiled and signaled her not to worry too much. I'll follow you and take a look, don't worry. If no one intervened, the conversation between father and daughter would definitely end on bad terms, right? He did not choose to walk into the room directly, but stood still at the door. Sure enough, after Yayu stood still, the conversation between father and daughter could be heard in the room. Akeno, I have something to ask you. Don't call me by my name. It seemed that after leaving everyone's presence and entering the room, Akeno's resentment burst out, her voice exuding a coldness and sharpness that she had never heard before. What's going on between you and that soldier boy from the Gremory family? What do you mean by this? As your father, don't you want to know who your daughter likes? After all, he is just. However, before he finished speaking, Akeno interrupted him angrily. Shut up. Don't act like a father. If you want to act like a father, why didn't you come at that time? Aren't you the one who refused to save my mother? Speaking of which, when Akeno was still very young, The pedantic bastards at the shrine hated the shrine maiden's mother because of her union with the worshippers of fallen angels, so her mother was killed soon after. At that time, Akeno the father did not appear. Therefore, when he heard Akeno say these words angrily, the worshipper immediately lowered his head in grief and became silent. I can't figure out why you still appear in front of me. Wouldn't it be best if we never see each other? What does it have to do with who I like and you? Yeah, you and I are just the same as the dependents of Lord Rias. That's all. With two adults, Rias and Sana, how could he like me with such filthy blood flowing through me? Akeno said this with a sarcastic smile. The more the girl acted like this, the more painful and guilty Bakio felt. Akeno, What else do you want to say now? Do you think I will listen to you? The reason why I followed you in is that I just want to tell you, don't call me by my name casually in the future, and don't act like a father in front of me. It's best to never show up in front of me again. After venting, the pain and anger that had been accumulated for many years burst out all at once. The target was his biological father, but in Akeno's heart, he was not worthy at all, and even hated him to the extreme. The mother she loved most was killed because of him, but he was cruel enough not to show up, and now he appears in front of her as a father. What does this mean? Akeno, listen to me, I'm not. Okay, there's no need to say any more. Having said that, I am very satisfied with my current life, so I don't want you to get involved in my life. As for Yayu, you are not qualified to despise him. After finishing speaking, Akeno was about to walk out of the room when a familiar figure appeared in her sight. I'm sorry, I heard it all. Yayu touched the tip of his nose and showed a helpless smile. Yayu is very clear that Akeno has a certain affection for him, but because of the girl's hatred of her own existence and the disgust of the blood flowing in her body, Akeno has never expressed her feelings to Yayu. Yayu was also very aware of this, so he did not expose the girl's love affair, but just stayed by her side silently, standing up to protect her when she needed him most. She hoped that one day Akeno would be able to walk out of this on her own, and then take the initiative to express her feelings to herself. Yeah, Yayu. Seeing Yayu's gentle expression, Akeno couldn't help but panic. At the same time, Baichu, who also discovered that Yayu was eavesdropping, spoke angrily, as if he was venting his anger in front of his daughter. You guy! How dare you eavesdrop? Shut up. Yayu, it's not your turn to make irresponsible remarks. Girls are outward, and this has reached a certain level. Of course, it would not have reached this level without that painful past. At least Yayu, who was standing outside the door and heard now, could confirm that Bakio's guilt and love for Akeno were true. If he was really a cold-blooded and ruthless father, perhaps the father and daughter would have turned against each other long ago. Okay, calm down a little bit. In any case, Baichu will be the representative of the fallen angels in the next period of time. Not as a father, but even as the representative of the fallen angels, you should let him. Let's finish talking, right? Otherwise, Mr. Bakio, I'm afraid we devils don't know how to treat guests. Gently squeezing Akeno's jade hand, Yayu tried his best to speak to Akeno calmly. But although she was persuaded by Yayu, Akeno still didn't have a good look at Bakio and stayed in the room with a very reluctant look. Yayu couldn't help but smile at the girl's arrogant performance and turned to look at Bakio. Okay, if you want to say anything, just say it, Lord Bakio. I'm sorry Akeno, maybe my tone is a little bad, but I really just want to understand your current situation. How do you want to live, and who do you like? If you don't understand these, what a failure as a father. A father? Haha, that's nice to say. When did you fulfill this responsibility? If it hadn't been for you, would my mother have been innocently killed? Who are you talking about now? The Ultimate Lich King. Author, BasedonanAnime. Chapter 315. Even you can't help but feel that Baichu is too stupid. Can't you say something crucial? After all this, you are still talking about those few words not long ago. Akeno is not angry at this. That's weird. Just when you had a headache about how to help Baichu and Akeno repair the broken father-daughter relationship, Akeno, who was listening to her father's words on the other side, really exploded again. Needless to say, if these are just hypocritical words, then I already know it now. My current situation is as you can see. So, that's it, it's best not to meet each other in the future, because it will make me very painful to see you. Ah. After saying this sarcastically, Akeno turned her eyes to the side in disgust. After what Akeno said, he didn't know how to defend himself. Baichu looked at Yayu again with eyes pleading for help, while the latter rolled his eyes angrily. Perhaps there really is some misunderstanding between you. Mr. Baikyu, can you explain in detail why such a thing happened in the first place and caused such a tragedy? The key to the matter is naturally the death of Akeno's mother. In fact, as long as Baikyu can explain clearly to Akeno why he refused to save her in the first place. If it is true that Baikyu is cold-blooded and refuses to save his woman, then not even Akeno, even Yayu will not look at him more, but if there is a hidden secret. It can be seen that Akeno's father is a man who values love and justice, so it is impossible for him to sit idly by while watching his woman die. Yayu believes that there must be some hidden secret that he doesn't know about. I'm sorry, I'm very grateful to you Yayu, but it's true, I have an unshirkable responsibility for the death of Akeno's mother. If I wasn't careless at the beginning. He lowered his head silently, but he would not explain anything to that debt. Even if there was a secret, in the final analysis it was indeed because of his mistake, and if Akeno's mother hadn't used her own life to protect the young Akeno, perhaps she wouldn't even have a chance to see her daughter now. Haha, apologize. What's the point of apologizing afterwards? Can an apology bring my mother back? It was the first time that Yayu saw Akeno, who was usually smiling, showing such an expression, roaring hysterically like a wounded beast, and the target was her father. Yayu could only sigh helplessly at this. Just as he thought, there was another hidden reason for the death of Akeno's mother, but in the final analysis, it was Akeno's father's mistake. Although it was an honest mistake, the consequences can never be undone. Cry, cry. Maybe it will feel better if you let it all out, right? Yayu gently comforted the crying Akeno, while on the other side Baikyu began to slowly explain to Yayu, an outsider, what had happened. The person who killed Akeno's mother was an enemy of the fallen angels. Those in the shrine thought that Akeno's mother had been brainwashed and imprisoned by the fallen angels, so they teamed up with some Onmyoji to eliminate Baikyu. Naturally, these rabble were no match for Baikyu. Considering that they were companions of Akeno's mother, Baikyu let them go. But who knew that the injured Onmyoji held a grudge against Akeno's sister and mother? The residents told the enemy of the fallen angel, the real murderer of Akeno's mother. This was indeed Baikyu's mistake. If he had placed guards around Akeno and her mother, perhaps such a tragedy would not have happened. However, after listening to Baichu's words, Yayu discovered the blind spot in it. You said that you were hurriedly recalled by the fallen angels' headquarters, so you didn't have time to arrange backup plans. Who was the person who recalled you? This. Baikyu looked troubled, and Akeno also stopped crying, raised her head from Yayu's arms and stared at Baikyu. At this time, the door was pushed open again, and Azazel, the governor of the fallen angels, walked in with a bitter look on his face. It's all my fault. I was the one who called Baikyu away that day. Because it was a job that only he could complete, I forced him to call him over. In just a short while, I'm sorry, I took your mother away, Akeno. Upon hearing Azazel's explanation, Akeno's face suddenly darkened, and the golden aura was violent, looking like she was about to lose control. Calm down. Akeno. Both Azazel and Bakio have unshirkable responsibility for this matter, but they didn't want this to happen. The ones who really killed your mother were the fallen angels. There are also those hypocrites at the shrine, aren't they? Hugging Akeno's body tightly, the faint coldness revealed in Ye Yuzhang's heart suppressed the raging power in Akeno's body. Are you going to let the real murderers go unpunished and take action against your own father? Ye Yu's words were like a wake-up call, instantly calming Akeno down. The girl's eyes were dark and deep, and she was mumbling to herself in a daze. The real murderer. Most of those people were killed by me and by Chiu. If Akeno still doesn't calm down, we... Shut up. I don't want you to pretend to be kind. I thought they had all disappeared, but I didn't expect there were still some left. Tell me where they are. I want to avenge my mother with my own hands. Unprecedented momentum burst out from Akeno's body. At this moment, her strength suddenly surged to the level of the highest level demon. The fusion of fallen angel blood and demon blood, black wings and demon wings spread out from behind her at the same time. See, they don't look much different than those high-level fallen angels. Don't worry. Bakio and I have been tracking their whereabouts over the years. Once we have clues, we will tell you as soon as possible. Akeno's aura was indeed terrifying, but it didn't affect Azazel at all. Seeing the girl being persuaded by Ye Yu's few words, Azazel couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief and said so. Bakio has not dared to face his daughter for so many years, so why not Azazel? Not only did he not dare to face Akeno, he also didn't dare to face Bakio. If it hadn't been for his own order, Bakio's family would not have been destroyed, his wife and children were separated, and the father and daughter were almost at odds with each other. But for so many years, Bakio not only had no complaints against him, he even continued to do his best for him and all the fallen angels as before. But today, this guilt and this knot in their hearts were finally solved, and both Bakio and Azazel could not help but let out a long sigh of relief. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Ultimate Lich King. Author, Shang. Chapter 316. The explosion that day almost completely exhausted Akeno's physical strength, and then the girl fell asleep for a long time. After waking up, Akeno seemed not to remember anything and was still smiling. Although she still ignored Bai Chiu, at least the deep-rooted hostility and even murderous intention disappeared. I really have to thank you so much, Mr. Ye Yu. If it weren't for you, we wouldn't know how to face that kid Akeno. Finding an opportunity, Azazel brought Ye Yu and Bai Chiu together for a gathering. The fallen angel governor, who usually seemed unconventional and carefree, thanked Ye Yu with a sigh on his face. I just did what I should do. After all, I don't want to see Akeno continue to suffer like this. Of course, Mr. Bakio still needs to work hard on the following things, so that Akeno can completely forgive you. I think it's not impossible. Well, I understand, thank you very much. The silent Bakio bowed his head slightly to express his gratitude. Thank you for everything you have done for Akeno, and I hope you can treat her well in the future. Stop talking nonsense like this. There is really nothing between Akeno and I. Seeing Bai Chiu staring at him with strange eyes, Ye Yu cleared his throat in embarrassment. Okay, maybe Akeno is a little interested in me, but I don't want to force her. For now, I'd better try to get her out of the shadow of her mother. When Ye Yu said this, Bai Chiu nodded slightly. He had no intention of forcing Ye Yu. After all, he also knew that there were too many women who had a relationship with Ye Yu. The next head of the Gremory family, Rias, the sister of Demon King Lucifer, is also the master of her own daughter, and then there is the sister of Demon King Leviathan, the next head of the Sidi family, Sana Sidi. Just this, the two love rivals are a bit too strong to deal with. Bakio didn't expect Akeno to completely forgive him. Now as a father, he just hopes that his daughter can be happy. This is his only wish. It was that night a few days after Odin came to Japan. On the carriage pulled by the 8-legged military horse called Sleipnir Odin's mount, Odin was sitting there with a lewd smile on his face. It's really a great time to play, it's really Azazel. Japanese Yamato Nades Hiko is amazing. Geisha are the best. Odin, the bastard old man, put on a satisfied expression and smiled ho ho ho. Azazel is sitting next to Odin. Tomorrow is the day to talk with the Japanese gods. They will set off together tonight. Sitting opposite them were Rias and Yayu, while the rest of Rias' family members were acting as escorts outside the carriage. Lord Odin. We are about to have a meeting with the gods of Japan. Please calm down from the travel mood. If this continues, others will be angry with us when we return home. And as the main god, we are going to do that. The place is already wrong, let alone talking about it like this. Although Rossius, the war otome, has only been staying in the villa in Gremory these past few days, it doesn't matter if she is abandoned, she still yells and screams without paying attention to her status. As a Valkyrie she couldn't bear it anymore, and the veins on her forehead popped out as she approached the old man. Oh, you are really a woman who doesn't know how to entertain. How about relaxing a little bit? You might be able to get a man if you do this. If you are so rigid, be careful that no one wants you. That Gremory family member, how about that annoying soldier brat, do you want to stay and be his woman? I just need it due to my responsibilities, not something rigid. Such a fragile Valkyrie, she suddenly started beating the ground and crying loudly, and everyone present could no longer complain about this. Is it ready over there? Speaking of which, Sertsks and Michael will also come forward. There is no need to make this meeting so troublesome. As long as the other party agrees, the old man will go directly. I agreed, peace and so on. After all, I am quite satisfied with this country. Don't be afraid of trouble. There is nothing you can do about it. Just treat it as a procedure. Moreover, our peace negotiation was completely planned by the disaster group. I wonder if the same problem will occur this time. Although Azazel, who was sitting on the left, spoke casually, his expression was somewhat serious. The disaster group, heroes with divine destruction tools, if they all restrained their hands, it would be very scary. Indeed, judging from recent intelligence, those guys from the hero faction are all able to achieve forbidden hands. It is obviously a taboo-like ability, but it has been popularized. The god who created these is not here, and it is really lawless. Oh, it's the same here, it's the same over there, everyone is in trouble. I really don't know when there will be peace. In that case, I can patronize this place every day. Ding. Squeak. Suddenly, the speeding carriage stopped, interrupting Odin's words behind him, and a strange and ominous aura quickly filled the air. Rossius immediately recovered from beating the ground and crying, and became alert. Azazel and Odin both frowned and looked towards the front of the carriage, where a figure suddenly appeared. There was a young male-like guy floating there, dressed in pitch black, and an ominous aura emanated from his body. Yayus frowned slightly. He was very familiar with this aura. The aura of naked evil was exactly the same as that thing. The breath of evil that is still in his body and has not been completely tamed is called the sin of this world. After confirming the man, Rossius acted as if he was deeply surprised. Azazel also smacked his lips. He looked like he was an acquaintance. The man shook off his cloak, raised the corners of his mouth and spoke. This is the first time we meet, gentlemen. I am the evil god of Northern Europe. Loki. Azazel waved his black wings and came out of the carriage, and Odin also stood up. Mr. Loki, it's a coincidence that we met in this place. What are you doing? Sitting in this carriage is His Highness Odin, the main god of Northern Europe. Did you know this and take action, Azazel calmly said asked. Loki across from him clasped his hands and spoke. It's nothing. Our Lord God ran away from our mythology system. The pain of contact with mythology systems other than ours is really unbearable. I couldn't bear it anymore, so I came to get in the way. Following the man's strange words, naked malice spread like a quagmire. You are so honest, Loki. There was quite a bit of anger in his voice. Loki smiled happily after hearing Azazel's words. Ah ha 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 ha, this is the governor of the fallen angels. Although I don't want to meet you and the other demons, there is no other way. Just be eliminated by me together with Odin. You're just in contact with other mythological systems. Are you contradicting yourself? Just destroy other mythological systems. I really can't understand the need to conclude peace. Obviously the mythology over there is to set foot in our territory to spread their holy books. Loki shook his head and said. It's useless to say this to me. Say it to Michael or the dead god in the holy book, Azazel said while assuming a fighting posture. The Ultimate Lich King. Author, BasedonanAnime. Chapter 317. For the Church, spreading the Bible is something that can be done almost all over the world. It is inevitable that it will arouse the dissatisfaction of other mythological systems, so Azazel is very wise and does not dwell on this issue. No matter which side it is, the main problem is that the main god Odin personally goes to negotiate peace with the gods of the Far East. This kind of thing must be eliminated. He, the main god, is too old and confused. The Nordic gods will be led into the dusk by him. So, let me ask you. Is this action related to the disaster group? Or is it Orpheus's order? Faced with Azazel's question, the young evil god answered without interest. It's extremely unpleasant to compare fool-like terrorists with my opinions. I came here to see you of my own will. Not Orpheus's will. Isn't it the disaster group? However, this is still a troublesome problem. I see, old man, is this the problem you said BD is burdened with? After hearing the conversation between Azazel and the evil god, the bastard god led the Valkyrie Rossius out of the carriage. There is a magic square spread out under your feet, and you can step through the magic square in the air. Oh! It's still here. The current situation is that there are still stubborn guys. Unexpectedly, they chased him directly as if he had expected the situation. The bastard lord sighed without much surprise. Loki-sama. This is an act that exceeds your authority. Showing your fierceness to the Lord God is not an allowable act. You should express your dissent on a legitimate occasion. Valkyrie Rossius, who had put on armor, was very dissatisfied and accused the evil god opposite, but the other party snorted disdainfully. Don't get in my way, just Ichisuk and Otome. I'm here to ask Odin. Do you still plan to continue doing things like this that are beyond the scope of Norse mythology? Yes. At least, compared to you, the conversation with Surtsks and Azazel is 10,000 times more interesting. I want to know more about Japanese Shinto. They are also interested in our world tree. I just want to send ambassadors to each other to carry out exchanges between different cultures if the peace talks between the two sides produce results. I understand, what a stupid idea. In this case, you can't blame me for being ruthless, Lord God. Boom. The monstrous arrogance exploded, the black power rolled, and the Demon King level strength was fully displayed at this moment. At the same time, yeah, you could also be completely sure of what kind of power Loki possessed in front of him. As you thought, sin in this world represents the sinful will of the world, so it is not surprising that it naturally exists in every world. It seems that the Loki in front of him has mastered a certain amount of the power of sin in this world. However, as someone who also masters the power of sin in this world, you clearly knows that the other party has only scratched the surface and has not fully mastered this power. Turn it into your own use. It feels very uncomfortable to have evil thoughts in your body. I wonder what you use to vent them. Both Azazel and Odin were nervously confronting Loki, but at this moment, a burst of light words rang out from the carriage. Both Azazel and Odin were slightly stunned and didn't understand what Yayu was talking about. However, after hearing Yayu's words, Loki's face, which was originally full of courage, suddenly became a little ugly. "Stand up. Who are you and why do you know this?" Loki said this with some surprise. He could see the power he had at a glance. "Who is the guy in the carriage? Apart from the governor of the fallen angels and this dead old man, was there anyone else accompanying him? Could it be that he is a certain demon king from hell?" With a confident smile on his lips, Yayu slowly stepped out of the carriage. Although no magic circle appeared under his feet, thin ice cubes condensed out of thin air, dragging his body. Seeing this scene, Loki's eyes narrowed slightly. Although Yayu's actions did not emit strong magic fluctuations like the magic square array at the feet of Azazel and Odin, it reflected his feelings for the magic square from the side. Precise control and power of power. "Who are you?" Loki said uncertainly as he stared at Yayu, who looked harmless. "Azazel, take that old man and leave first." "Leave this guy to me." Ignoring Loki, Yayu said to Azazel. "I understand." Looking at Yayu's serious eyes, Azazel did not ask any more questions, but turned around and entered the carriage. As expected, Loki did not stop Odin and Azazel from leaving, but just stared at Yayu. "Who are you?" Loki showed his ferocious fangs at Yayu. "What am I? I think you should know it best, right?" As Yayu said this, he released his power without any reservation, and the biting cold spewed out along with the chilling malice. Coming to this world, this was the first time that Yayukwon completely released the power of sin in his body. Even Yayu himself doesn't know if he has mastered this power, but today he released it impulsively. Perhaps Loki, who also bears the sin of this world, triggered this. This is... Loki screamed in horror as if he had seen something incredible. "How is it possible? How can you have such a power? The only one in this world who has such a power is me, the evil god Loki." As the evil god Loki, he considers himself the incarnation of evil and controls all the evil thoughts in the world. He has no idea where the evil thoughts in Yayu come from. Loki's answer was a sharp slash. Frostmourne struck down mercilessly with a chill that seemed to freeze a person's soul. Boom! The extremely evil aura burst out violently, and Loki faced Yayu as if he was crazy. Even though he was mobilizing all his strength, when facing the man opposite him, Loki found that he was helpless. As soon as his power came into contact with the other person, he was constantly being devoured. This feeling is like encountering one's natural enemy, the feeling of surrendering in front of more powerful evil thoughts. Damn it, how is it possible? I am the real god of evil. How could there be an evil power in this world that makes me surrender? A ferocious look appeared on Loki's face, and then the sound of space breaking sounded instantly. The Ultimate Lich King. Author, Xiezhongdai. Chapter 318. Oh. After the space shattered, a shrill roar sounded, and then a big mouth that opened and closed rushed towards Yayu. Facing that mouth, Yayu had the illusion that even the world would be swallowed up by him. Click. With a crisp sound, the ice wall tens of meters high that Yayu condensed in front of him was actually bitten into pieces by this huge mouth. God Ghoul Wolf. Rasia said in a trembling voice as she recognized the identity of the wolf. Oh. The giant wolf landed on the ground and roared, staring at Yayu with a pair of scarlet eyes. Be careful, Yayu boy, this is Fenrir Wolf, the world-destroying demon wolf in Nordic mythology, the son of the evil god Loki. According to legend, Fenrir Wolf can devour the world by opening its upper and lower jaws. If you are bitten by his teeth, even the main god Odin will die. He is an out-and-out demon wolf. Following Azazel's reminder, Loki, who had regained his breath, slowly landed next to Fenrir Wolf, looking at Yayu with the same wild and bloody eyes. No matter what you are, I will kill you and eat all the evil thoughts in you. I will let you know that the god of evil can only be me, Loki. Loki laughed crazily, and Yayu's strength made him feel fearful and excited at the same time. If he could take all these strong evil thoughts as his own, even Off-Eyes would no longer be his opponent, right? Really, just you? He chuckled in response to Loki's crazy words and deeds, and then Yayu rushed forward again holding Frostmourne in his hand. Hum me Fenrir and crush his throat. The evil god Loki, who was still a little afraid of the power exuded by Yayu, obviously did not intend to go into battle in person. He gave orders to his son, Fenrir Demon Wolf. Although he was a demonic wolf with little outstanding sanity, Fenrir, who also felt the oppressive feeling emanating from Nevinmore, hesitated for a while, and then pounced on him ferociously. "Oh, is this beast your support? Ah, I'm sorry, I seem to have said the wrong thing. This is your son, right?" It turns out that the famous evil god Loki is a beast. Hearing Yayu's words, Loki's face suddenly darkened, but even if he was so humiliated, he did not lose his mind, because Loki could not see through the man in front of him at all. As the god of evil, Loki couldn't understand why there would be a second person with such power in the world. He even said that the power of evil he controlled was more powerful than his own, and even made him fear him. Feel. With the giant sword in front of him, even Fenrir, the demon wolf that could devour the world, couldn't bite Yayu's artifact into pieces. Not only that, but the chill also spread through Fenrir's teeth and throughout his body. Oh oh! Another roar came out, but this time it was a horrified roar. Fenrir, who realized something was wrong, just wanted to leave Yayu's side, but how could the latter let him get what he wanted? "You beast, just lie down like a beast and don't bare your teeth at others." Saying this, Yayu twisted his arm, and the huge heavy sword Frostmourne raised above Fenrir's head, and then smashed it hard towards its waist. As the saying goes, wolves are like copperheads and iron tails. Although I don't know if this world-destroying demon wolf is like this, it does not prevent Yayu from giving it a try. Frostmourne smashed down as hard as a mountain. The world-destroying demonic wolf, who had bared his teeth and grinned extremely fiercely a second ago, suddenly let out a dog-like wail, and his whole body almost doubled in two and faced such a straight line. It hit the ground and smashed down. "How is it possible, Fenrir? Stand up quickly." Although Loki roared like this, the demon wolf that devoured the world still fell to the ground. Although it was not dead, it seemed that it no longer had the ability to fight. Blood overflowed from the wolf's mouth in large mouthfuls, and its huge body was trembling and twitching, looking extremely miserable. "It seems like the beast you raised is hopeless, so, what are you going to do now?" Yayu narrowed his eyes and smiled, and walked towards Loki step by step. Hateful. He clenched his fists involuntarily and cursed in his mouth, but looking at Yayu walking towards him step by step, Loki's eyes showed deep fear. It's impossible to win, he's no match for him at all. What should he do? Fenrir also let out a mournful cry, and collapsed there in despair, seemingly unwilling to help his father, but Yayu continued to move forward without even looking at him. Just when Yayu walked over and turned his back to the ferocious beast, Fenrir's violent scarlet eyes suddenly opened wide again. The world-destroying demon wolf, which seemed to be on the verge of death, jumped up, and then rushed towards Yayu amidst the exclamations of Rosius, Azazel, and others. So it is said that beasts will always be beasts, and it is human nature not to have a long memory. Before the proud look could be fully revealed, it instantly froze on Loki's face. Because as Yayu's understatement fell, a huge ice cone shot up from the ground, right in the path of Fenrir's attack. The sudden appearance of the ice pick was so unexpected that even Fenrir, who was planning a sneak attack, did not react. In an instant, he was pierced by the ice pick from top to bottom and turned into a candied hawse. How could it be possible? Loki spoke tremblingly. Even with such horrific injuries, the beast did not die immediately. Bright red blood spurted out as the ferocious beast struggled, soaking the ice pick below in bright red. Do you think I'm really that stupid? I've been wary of this beast for a long time. Just as I suspected, it won't die so easily. Yeah, you said this, looking at the trembling Loki in front of him, and spoke slowly with a cruel voice. Then, it's you next, evil god Loki. I really underestimated you. I didn't expect that even Fenrir was no match for me. So, I'll quit for now. It is not a wise choice to continue to stay here, and Fenrir's injury also requires timely treatment. Loki said this very decisively, and then with a flick of his cloak, a huge distortion appeared in the space, like an invisible barrier, and Loki and the trapped Fenrir wolf were instantly wrapped in it. Then, I will write down everything today. Next time, when Odin talks with the gods of this country, I will come again to disrupt the situation. At that time, I will let Fenrir bite all of your necks. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Ultimate Lich King. Author, BasedonanAnime. Chapter 319. Although he was planning to escape, Loki still left some beautiful words. Listening to the other party's harsh words, yeah, you couldn't help but shake his head and reveal a sarcastic smile. I want to leave, did I tell you to leave? I want to leave, how can you bear with me? Loki spoke so disdainfully because he didn't intend to pay attention to Yayu. Staying here for a second longer would be dangerous, so it would be better to escape as soon as possible. As for the chances of dealing with Odin in the future, can this weird boy keep that old immortal for the rest of his life? You want to leave, are you sure you can leave? When Yayu finished speaking, something suddenly changed on Loki's face, because he found that the space that should have been torn apart by him was now motionless under his hands like a steel plate. How is it possible? Why does space? It seems that you haven't figured out the current situation and your situation. You have fallen into my cage. Yeah, you said this, and then slowly raised a hand. Accompanied by the piercing sound of something breaking, it was not until this moment that Loki realized that the surrounding space was covered with a thin layer of frost. The mirror-thin frost is covered with spiderweb-like cracks, and it looks like it will break at any time. However, the seemingly fragile frost can easily isolate the entire world, making it impossible for Loki to leave here smoothly. Damn, this damn thing, what the hell is this? He punched the frost hard, but the seemingly fragile frost cage was indestructible and unmoved at all. This is ice. Saying this with a faint smile, looking at the panicked evil god Loki, Yayu pointed his raised palm at him and shook his finger. Ah! Ah! A shrill scream rang out from Loki's mouth, accompanied by the crackling sound of something freezing and then shattering, but this time the source of the sound was Loki himself. What kind of power is this? Looking at the battle in front of him incomprehensibly, Yayu suppressed the evil god Loki in all aspects from the beginning, and then even took the opponent into his hands and ravaged him wantonly. Is Yayu actually so strong? Rhea spoke in disbelief, while Azazel rubbed her chin and thought. Well, it seems that this kid has really hidden a lot of things. The power of the dragon that made Off-Eye surrender, and the evil power that made even the evil god Loki surrender, plus this unpredictable frost, I really wonder who he is. It's too scary to freeze a Demon King level expert directly from within. This kid really can't use common sense to deduce. Looking at Loki's tragic situation in the sky, Odin said this with some sadness. Although the other party wanted to kill him, he was still a god of his own pantheon anyway. Seeing him walking towards a stranger like this, Odin felt a little uncomfortable in his heart. The screams became smaller and smaller, and soon they were no longer heard at all. Loki completely transformed into a gorgeous ice sculpture full of cracks, slowly falling from the sky. Solved. Returning to the carriage with a faint smile, looking at the stunned people, "Yeah, you said so lightly." "Ah, solved." The first person to come back to her senses and speak in some unbelievable way was the Valkyrie Roscius. Loki and the wolf Fenrir were killed by the man in front of him as if it was a joke. Knowing that the girl has not yet come back, God comes. It's really amazing, this man, if she can become this man's woman. Roscius's pretty face suddenly turned red as she thought this, and the girl squatted in a corner while making a strange sound of laughter. How to deal with this guy? Although he is not dead yet, if he is left alone like this, he will die sooner or later. Looking at the dying demon wolf Fenrir, Azazel asked Yayu. Logically speaking, this is Yayu's trophy, and it is Yayu's choice how to deal with it. By the way, this guy can be adopted as a familiar. If he becomes Yayu's familiar, it will certainly make your strength even better, right? Azazel suggested this, but Yayu obviously wasn't very interested. Forget it, I have no interest in being such a burden, and I don't think this dog's strength can help or improve me. Although Yayu spoke so lightly, he seemed extremely arrogant, but Azazel couldn't say a word. This is a demon wolf that can kill demon king level beings, but you are calling it so worthless. Azazel shook his head helplessly, and Azazel didn't know what to say. He couldn't help but look at Rias and the others. Since Yayu doesn't want it, Rias, please take it. This is an extremely powerful combat force. Azazel said this and Rias nodded. Such a powerful familiar Rias would naturally not refuse. And the statue of poor Loki was also collected by Odin. This is a good thing. After returning to Northern Europe, you can take it and give it to those who resisted him and questioned him to have a good look at it, so that they will understand that there will be betrayers. What will happen? The carriage slowly drove away in the night. Apart from dried blood and broken ice, there was no proof that the famous Nordic evil god had ever been there. Soon, everything settled, and then a somewhat frightening voice slowly sounded in the night. How could this happen? Why were Lord Loki and the demon wolf Fenrir wiped out so easily? It seems that this guy's name was not blown out. It makes Vala's guys so fearful, and even Off-Eyes avoids his etch. This guy, even if he becomes the leader of the future demons, will not make people think so. Strange. Another voice also sounded, with a hint of sigh. At least now, the infinite dragon god is no longer a threat. Lord Cao just sent a message. Oh, this is. What's wrong? Could it be? Yes, we have found the Dragon Eater. This will bring the end of infinity. Very good. If you can deal with infinite, who else in this world can be the opponent of Lord Cao? The Ultimate Lich King. Author, Shang. Chapter 320. After sending Old Man Odin away, the time for the school trip soon came. Although Odin is gone, the Supernatural Research Department has an uninvited guest. As a Valkyrie, Roscius didn't know why she stayed. According to the other party, it seemed that Odin specially gave this Valkyrie to him in order to repay Yayu's kindness. When Roscius said such words with tears in her eyes and very shyly, the corners of Yayu's mouth couldn't help but twitch. You have been betrayed by your master god. How about you show a little anger or anger, ah? But it is a pity that it seems that because of Yayu's heroic performance that night, Roscius's worship of Yayu reached a fanatical level. The Valkyrie looked very resentful towards the word virgin and looked like she wanted to sacrifice herself immediately. Rias was also very careful to guard against Roscius. Yayu was alone in the living room, while in another room, a group of girls were studying what they needed for their school trip. Elsa, it's said that you can wear fashionable underwear on school trips. Zenobia said. Elsa blushed after hearing her words. Really, really? Yeah. It is said that the first thing to wear in a public bath is decent underwear, otherwise you will be laughed at later. Me too, even though I say so, I don't have any good looking underwear, so I'd better go buy some together. It's better. There is so much knowledge about study travel. Although her face was red, Aisha still continued to ask. Then, what color is better? The white one is the best. That's the original form of underwear that His Highness Gabriel even praised. Good, Irina jumped in with great interest, but no, Aisha and I both need to wear winning underwear. Ah, me, I wanted to. Aisha was stunned after hearing Zenovia's words. Black, I heard that black is the most elegant and mysterious color, and it can best arouse a man's primitive desire, Zenovia said mysteriously, and the girl licked her tongue coquettishly. This is top secret information that Akeno-senpai told me. I have shared it with you. Remember to thank me. Black, black, Irina's face turned red, as if out of shame. While secretly hearing such words, Rossius quickly threw away the pure white underwear in her hand and went to rummage through the cabinets to find black ones. The Valkyrie quickly integrated into Rias and the others, and Rias unceremoniously made her one of her followers, turning her into a chariot that looked like a kitten. Since it was a second-year school trip, first-year and third-year students had to go to class as usual, so neither Rias nor Akeno could go together. This matter has made Rias resentful for a long time. There is no doubt that those girls will never give up such a good opportunity. The only one who deserves peace of mind is probably the confused girl Aisha. As for the rest, none of them can make Rias feel relieved, but the sad thing is that she hasn't had any chance to stop it. Here is one certification for each person. When they were about to leave, Rias handed out something like a card to everyone who was about to leave for the trip, and everyone received it in their hands for confirmation. Is this the legendary one? Kiba asked, and Rias nodded in affirmation. Yes, this is what demons need to enjoy traveling in Kyoto. The so-called free bus ticket. Most of the scenic spots in Kyoto are temples. To be more specific, Kyoto has countless places full of spiritual power. Usually, demons want there are all kinds of inconveniences when walking around in Kyoto. After all, generally speaking, temples are not places where demons should approach. Rias explained while several girls nodded their heads. It was the same when we went last year. As long as there is a legitimate reason for the devil, they will give out this coupon. Rias explained this and everyone nodded in understanding. As everyone got on the train one by one, the red-haired girl gently held Yayu's arm. What's wrong, Rias? Feeling the gentle touch from his arm, Yayu turned around and gently stroked the girl's long hair and asked. You are not allowed to flirt with women during the trip, and you are not allowed to have strange things happen with Aisha and the others, either actively or passively. With a little jealousy, Rias blinked and said. Just when Yayu scratched his head in embarrassment and wanted to answer something, the girl stood on tiptoes and pressed her lips lightly. The faint fragrance left in an instant, and Rias left with a chuckle. The girl didn't care how many women Yayu had. She was not the kind of jealous or selfish woman. She only hoped that Yayu would always have her in his heart. A place is enough. It took about 10 minutes after taking the Shinkansen from Tokyo Station. Because of the high-speed movement of the car body, the scenery seen outside the window is changing rapidly. Next to them, Zenovia and Irina were talking and laughing while looking out the window. For the trio who lived a simple life in the church, no one had ever taken such a trip, so being able to leave the church was quite a blessing in a sense. Yayu leaned lazily on the seat, and the sunlight flashed through the car window like a slideshow, bringing wonderful visual colors. Suddenly, Zenovia leaned over and sat on the empty seat. The girl looked at Yayu's words with a serious look on her face. Master Yayu, I want to discuss something with you. I don't know when Zenovia's address to Yayu became respectful adults, which made Yayu a little funny and a little helpless. What's going on? Zenovia. It may be a little abrupt to say it, but please have a child with me, Yayu. The sudden words were like a bombshell, making Yayu almost spit out a mouthful of blood, while Irina and Aisha on the other side also blushed immediately. What weird things are you talking about? This is no longer something that can be described as abrupt, right? No, I thought very carefully before making such a request. Ever since I became a devil, I have been thinking about what a devil is. Now I finally understand, so I no longer suppress and disguise myself. I freed what had been sealed until now. Zenobia said this, but yeah, you still look dumbfounded. Even if you say so, what does having a child have to do with it?